So, we have like exciting news, but like it's not like really news because like I feel like news you kind of have to be breaking it in order for it to be news. This is like a couple days old and we're just getting on it now.
Yeah, and also by the time I
So,
feel like that we put this episode out, it might be old news, but still, it's good news. It's good
it's
news.
exciting. Yeah. So what's the news?
So the Asians swept the Oscars. That's what happened. That's what
Pretty
happened,
hard.
okay? So as I'm
And
sure that many of you know, Everything Everywhere All at Once won 7 Academy Awards, I believe. Let me double check on that number actually.
I believe it was 7 Academy Awards and then like out of 11
Okay, yeah.
nominations. So like they did really, really, really good. And like it's not just the Oscars; they won like all sorts of awards for every other film competition
I think
award
they won
ceremony
10
thing.
actually. Yeah.
10?
This is crazy. Also, I feel like I should mention that we are kind of playing this episode by ear, so there is going to be a lot of like intermittent Googling. Um, but yeah, it won Best Picture, Best Actress, won by Michelle Yeoh, obviously. Best Supporting Actress, which was Jamie Lee Curtis, I believe. Best Supporting Actor, which was K. I have such a hard time pronouncing his name. Ke Huy Quan. Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, Best Film Editing, um, Best Original Score, and Best Costume Design. Dang! Wow!
That's were you counting? I wasn't.
Oh
I should
wow,
have been,
that's
I guess.
crazy. Good for them. Good for them.
Yeah,
Um,
good. That have you watched that movie yet?
so I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna get so canceled for this. Holy shit. So yes,
Deservingly so.
but I promised that I would watch this film with my mom, and she and I don't actually
Uh
live
huh.
in the same state. So I have yet to watch this
Hmm.
film, but she and I promised that we would watch it together. So I'm still waiting. The next time that I go visit her, we're gonna go watch this together. And I'm going to cry. I know I'm gonna cry. I've seen clips of this movie like here and there. I haven't had it like spoiled for me, I guess. I don't really know if this is a movie that you can spoil though, just because I feel like the content of it is so rich and like kind of complicated that you
Hmm.
can't really like spoil the most vital elements of actually watching this movie. But I've watched a few clips like that one where Ke Huy Quan is like, in another life I would have been happy just like doing laundry and paying bills with you or something. I cried. I straight up like it's a 2 second clip and I like teared up. I also just I was bawling when everybody like accepted their awards. It's very emotionally charged film for me already, so I know I'm gonna cry, but um
those those acceptance speeches, man.
yeah. Yeah.
I got everything from goosebumps to tears watching those. Though, I literally remember like the night like it happened. Like someone like sent me the link for the acceptance speech, and I was like, I cannot watch this right now. Like I will actually just like just
Yeah.
fall apart if I watch these acceptance speeches right now. I need to be like mentally prepared for it because like it's just like such a like I think the two of us aren't particularly people to like follow the
Mhm.
Oscars like that. But it's still like it's still like a magical moment
Mhm.
in a way, Especially like leading up to it, they talked a lot about like how about Asian Americans like in the Oscars, right? And just how like underrepresented they have been. How and like just how it really feels like we're like sitting in a
Mhm.
moment of history for Asian Americans, which is just like amazing and fascinating and like it just makes me feel like we can do
Mhm.
things.
I also just think that in and this kind of speaks to like I don't know about y'all, but when I was younger, my mom did have like this thing about me knowing about the arts and like participating in the arts. So I played a lot of instruments growing up and I like took singing lessons and I remember there was this like emphasis about knowing arts, but I wasn't allowed to do it as my career. Like I had to know about it and I had to be involved in it and I had to be educated about it, but in terms of like actually doing it professionally, that was off the table. And as far as I can tell, this is like kind of a common theme, like unless you're doing like a classical instrument and you're like a prodigy and your parents like want you to pursue that. Like all of us in some way or another were like involved in some kind of art that we were never allowed to fully pursue because like our education came first or we had to like pick a serious job. um there's that like, you know, like you can play the violin and do it, you know, as a hobby, but like the moment that you might think that you want to do it for money, your parents like, no, you have to go to med school, right? um and so to see such a to see like Asians kind of penetrating more and more into the entertainment industry just feels so revolutionary on like a meta level because it's like I didn't grow up watching people who looked like me on TV very much unless I was watching like a Korean drama, right? And
Hmm.
so to kind of see this just I mean we're seeing more of it like every single day, you know, but to see such like a film that's near and dear to so many Asian people's hearts like win so big at like a generic, not a generic, but like a like an award show that isn't just meant for Asians, right? Was so like so crazy and revolutionary, especially because like this is an Asian American film, right?
Hmm.
Parasite won and swept the Academy Awards a couple years ago as well, but that is like a Korean film. It's not an Asian American film necessarily, and so to see Everything Everywhere All at Once do so well in speaking to such a wide audience and touching so many people's hearts, even though it is a distinctly Asian American film, just makes me so happy and so proud. Um, but yeah, very emotional.
Yeah, like going on like that, like the Asian American thing of it, like I think that's like the thing that I felt like is really missing from like Asian representation here in America. So like we do have a lot of like people who
Hmm.
look like us, right? Like K-pop is like pretty big. Anime is, I mean, we don't look like anime characters, but
Says
like
the boy with the blonde
there's
hairlights and the okay. Okay, on. All right.
You know what? I'm glad someone is finally understanding my desire to be an anime boy. Thank you for recognizing my life.
You're like that's the look I was going for. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, that was exactly it, and it's nice to know that someone got it. Um, yeah, but like like those types of art, even though like they have Asian like
Yeah.
aesthetics to them, they don't really get to like talk about problems that like Asian Americans here
Hmm.
have, right? Because like they're not Asian Americans. They don't deal with like having to deal with like being descendant from like immigrant stories or like dealing with like racial pressures that like do exist like here in America, like that don't exist in a much more
Yeah.
homogenized place, right? And that's like something I won't talk too much about it because you haven't watched it, but like I love that that's something about the movie that really
Hmm.
works for it, right? It's truly an Asian American
Hmm.
piece of art that deals with very specifically Asian American themes. Like I don't think someone in Asia is going to understand it in the same way that like Asians here are going to
Yeah.
understand it, and like that just like makes me so happy because like there's so many things that like I want to talk about or that I feel, but I don't have the words to say them. And like that's the thing I
Hmm.
love about art, right? It sometimes gives you the words to say things that like you don't completely understand, right? And that's something like that's just like amazing about this movie that it really helped me understand like myself and my place in this whole like bigger relationship of things. I'm being very vague here. uh, but it was just like really awesome that way to see something like that and then to see something like that
Hmm.
win and like be recognized as like a great piece of art and like that's a story that's important, you know. I think that's something else about it, like it took a story that I think a lot of Asian Americans can
Hmm.
relate to and like kind of tells us that like it's okay and it's important and like people can
Hmm.
see why like we would like feel
Hmm.
this way and stuff like that.
Also, please
So
don't be
good.
concerned about like spoiling anything for me. I already know that this is a film that has like one immense rewatch value. Just seeing like the clips and stuff from it online. I also did a deep dive into like the costuming of the movie. I am a huge like nerd when it comes to putting films together. I think that that process is so special and so unique, and there's so many moving parts to it. Like one of my favorite things is to watch like the behind the scenes of like how films and TV shows are made, because I think that like you can appreciate the stories for what they are, but behind every TV show is another story of like the creation process, right? And every TV show has a different creation process. And
Hmm.
particularly for indie films, which Everything Everywhere All at Once is an indie film, which is crazy. I feel like you take one look at it and you're like, oh yeah, no, they had like a Hollywood budget to work with. No, just they did not.
They did not.
And I think that just makes it so much more impressive and unique and special. But there is a video essayist that I watch on YouTube. Her name is Mina Lay. She's amazing. You guys should go check her out. Where she's like pretty into fashion, and she does a lot of things where she talks about like social norms and kind of prejudices that are associated with like clothing. But she did a deep dive on all of the movies that were nominated for the Oscars for Best Costume, and Everything Everywhere All at Once was nominated, and it won, I believe, Best Costume. And let me tell you, the way that she kind of describes the process that the costumer went through after having done like her own research on it as well, like the difference between a Hollywood budget and an indie film is millions of dollars. And I feel like a lot of people can't wrap their heads around that. But when you,
There comes a point where a certain number of millions is just the
yeah, but
same to me.
um, like you look at certain film budgets and like say this film compared to Babylon, the movie with Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie about Hollywood in the 1920s. That was a movie with a Hollywood budget. The person who directed Moonlight, I think, was the same person who made that film, and he had a lot to work with. And she compares and contrasts the two films that both have wonderful costumes, but with Babylon, there was this the creative liberties that they take with that film and 1920s fashion is not the same kind of liberties that an indie film could take if they were working with the same content. So, similarly, and on the flip side of the coin, Everything Everywhere All at Once is a multiverse film, and it takes place across so many different settings that they had a lot to work with in terms of creative liberty, but representing all of those worlds as unique and interesting with their own kind of like biomes that they had to work with was like the hardest part of the film. So, even if they had all of the creative liberty in the world, which, I mean, there's hot dog fingers in this movie, okay? They had creative liberties and they ran with them, all right? Um, but like, no,
You're not ready. Like no matter how much you know about that, watching it is going to be something else. Uh,
I'm so excited. But they,
it shouldn't be.
we're just gonna do a whole episode on dissecting the hot dog fingers scenes in that film, um, and the collective trauma we all feel after watching that. No, um, so even though they had all the creative liberties, there were still so many things that they had to cover, and representing all of those things as individual and unique was important and vital to the storytelling of the film. They couldn't get away with taking certain creative liberties. Like Babylon, and she does a lot of comparing and contrasting between these two movies because Babylon quite literally takes creative liberties to like the extreme. The 1920s
Mhm.
was filled with like bobs, thin eyebrows, like the puckered lips, red lipstick, right? And Margot Robbie kind of just looks like a 2020s like grunge icon. She has like long hair. She's not wearing any like discernible makeup in any of her scenes really. And all of her fashion is very not 1920s. There's like a particular dress that Mina talks about for a while, which is like this scarf dress that looks like it's just been draped on her and like cut out. And she's like, you would have never seen this in the 1920s. This is like a full 2020s moment. And even dresses that
Hmm.
kind of looked similar were represented in a completely different fashion and weren't they were worn particularly as like movie costumes. But Margot Robbie is wearing it as like an everyday outfit. And she's like, this just isn't a thing. And it's a misrepresentation of a creative liberty that they could have done something really interesting with, but decided not to. Right.
Hmm.
And Everything Everywhere All at Once does not fall into that trap. And it's really refreshing to see like a movie that does that and put in the work gain the recognition that it deserves for it. You know what I mean? I just think that's so special. I don't know why I spent so long talking about dresses and fashion, but I thought that was really interesting, and I watched that video essay earlier today, and like that really stuck with me. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I thought that was cool.
I am looking on the IMDb though, and they did get
Oh, they
nominated, but
didn't
I
win
don't think
it.
they won
Dang
it.
it.
Sadly,
Well,
they didn't
a
win it,
nomination's
but
still
they won a
cool. A
lot. So
nomination is still cool, and it still means that it stood out and people saw it. So yeah.
the costume design was really good though, especially like being something that's like purposely a bit
Mm-hmm.
surrealist, right? So they did get to do like some really just like fun, absurd things with
Yeah.
the costumes, right? Like just a conceit of the movie itself. Just let them do like some really wacky things that are just it's
Mm-hmm.
just fun, you know? Like nothing. There might be deeper layers, and I will rewatch this movie for like a full deep dive episode on
Oh,
this
we
movie
gotta do
because
it.
like of
Of course.
course I'm going to
Yeah.
talk about it more. Right? And maybe I'll find some deeper meaning in the costuming, but just like on initial glance, it was just really it was just
Mm-hmm.
real fun, you know.
And I just gotta say, like, every single actor in this film that won an accolade 100, 200, 300% deserves it 1,000 times over.
Yeah.
We've talked about Michelle Yeoh on the podcast before, and she's just such a national treasure. um, she is mother. um,
She is.
um, and God no, just like and like all of the amazing films that she's been in this past that I've seen her in for the past couple years, like Crazy Rich Asians, Shang-Chi. It's just crazy to me that like this woman, she's done so much hard work. She's done so much for the community at large. She is one of the most famous, if not the most famous, Asian actress of our generation and the generation before us, right? And she's still out here like busting her ass, and it's so refreshing and great to see that she is finally getting the recognition that she deserves, the recognition that she has deserved for years and years and years, finally, culminating in this. And Michelle Yeoh is the first Asian identifying actress to win an Academy Award.
It's crazy. It's like
That's so fucking
like
wild to me. Like,
it's so wild to me. Like that just doesn't feel like it should be true, but like
hmm
it is.
yeah. Um,
I remember when I was like reading about this like on the news, like one of the like articles that I was reading was like made the argument because like uh someone said like she's the first like Asian American actress to get nominated for an Oscar,
mhm.
right? And then like that's like technically not true because there was an Asian actress that was nominated before her, but she like hadn't but she like was white
Yeah.
presenting, right? So it's like she didn't talk about her Asian. She hid it in order to be
Yeah.
successful in the industry. So like like the person went on to say, okay, so revision of the statement. She is the first openly
Yeah.
Asian actress
Yeah.
to get nominated. And I was like, the fact that that's
Mhm.
a thing, like the fact that that's a true statement, first openly Asian actress
Yep.
to get nominated is like in itself just like an insane thing
Mhm.
to say despite it being
I also
true.
just think the craziest part of that as well is just I don't know. Like I understand that within the Academy Awards, we are still fighting so hard to be represented on the big stage like that. But even after Parasite came out and everything, people were still apprehensive about this. I feel like I remember when Parasite won
Mm-hmm.
Best Picture. What year was that? What year did Parasite win Best Picture? Oh my God. Um, okay, 2020. Good
Sometime within.
lord. I
Okay,
was
okay.
gonna say 2021, but apparently that was a long
You
time
know,
ago. All right, well,
all those
yeah,
years blend
apparently.
together. Like, I don't
Um,
blame
I
you.
remember when Parasite won Best Picture, there was like a media outcry about it because they were like, "Oh, like Parasite isn't even like an American movie. It's like a Korean movie. It's like a Korean film. Why is it winning like an American award?" And like even now, I
Because
mean,
it's
yeah, because
good.
it's fucking good. Um, I also just like whenever people say that, I'm like, eat my entire ass. I have no I have no like emotional empathy for people who are angry about like BIPOC films winning awards in any capacity. Like if a white American gets upset about that, there is literally no empathy in my heart for them. Like I'm like your concerns are not valid whatsoever. Um but even now, I was looking at an Instagram post the other day, which was like, talking about how Everything Everywhere All at Once swept the Oscars, and there were people in the comments being like, "Oh, like overrated, like I didn't really get the message, like didn't resonate with me, like too like liberal, right? Like virtue signaling too hard, like." And people have all of these complaints and everything, and I understand that like the reviews for that movie are overwhelmingly positive, and to focus on like the negative gives it power that it's not due. But like it's important also to understand that there are still people who think that this is not deserved, that this has not been earned, that
Yeah.
this is some kind of fluke or a mistake, or I don't even know, like a million other reasons why people are upset,
That
right?
that's something I found really interesting about like this film and also Shang-Chi is that like a lot of people like don't seem to like admittedly just don't get the film.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and like I those both those films, right? And like with Shang-Chi it kind of manifests in the form of like it's a
Yeah.
fine Marvel movie, right? Whereas for me like we'll talk about this sometime, like like we love it. And the same thing with like Everything Everywhere All at Once, where it kind of meant where like people just like recognize that it's like a well
Mm-hmm.
put together film, but like I find it really hard to have conversations with other people that like aren't um that I was gonna say not Asian, but that's
Mm-hmm.
not even true, right? I find it really hard to have conversations with people who aren't thinking really deeply about Asian American
Mm-hmm.
problems, like that like get it, like there are some Asians that I would like talk to about this movie that still don't seem to like really be like getting it because like they're not like in tune because like they don't spend the admittedly a lot of time that I spend thinking about Asian American problems that
Don't be
you
ashamed,
know
on. Just own
and
it.
like the,
Just go with it. It's okay.
yeah and I think that's like the and like I think that's the thing that like gets me like the most frustrated with like people who are like saying the film's overrated and stuff like that. It's because like it's such a film made for such like a specific demographic. It's made by Asian Americans, like for
Mm-hmm.
Asian Americans, so like if like I feel like not getting it isn't a matter of the film not doing its job right. It's a matter of like you being able to extend enough empathy to try to engage with something that like deals with problems that like aren't particularly like always like depicted and like talked about in like media
Mm-hmm.
normally, right? Like I like if you ask me like how many other films like talk about the themes that this film talks about, like I can name like
Yeah.
Shang-Chi kind of, but
Yeah.
not even really. And like that's about it. So like like if you so what I'm saying is like if you don't get the movie, maybe it would be worth it to rewatch it with a lens specifically thinking about Asian American uh issues and problems and experiences. I think is the word that I really wanted to find.
I also think that it's so sad if you can't empathize with a film like this because it's just pure denial, right? Like, um,
I think there's a genuine possibility, and maybe I'm giving the
uh,
benefit of the doubt here, but I think there's a genuine possibility that like if you grew up in America white, right, like a lot of stuff is
hmm
made for you, right? That's just like that's just like the reality of what it is. A lot of stuff is dealing with problems of like white
hmm
people, specifically white men
yeah,
usually, right? So like there just does not need to necessarily be that skill to develop to try to understand, right, media that isn't for that
hmm
demographic specifically, right? Whereas like you grow up like a minority, right? And the more minorities you layer onto there, like if you grow up as like a minority woman too, like it's even more, right? You have to end up spending a lot of time doing that because like if you don't, then you get
yeah,
nothing to watch,
yeah.
right? So like, and maybe I'm being a bit generous and just saying that like they just haven't developed the
hmm
skills for it, right? But like that's also kind of not an excuse to like shit on the film
Yeah.
either, right?
I
Like
guess what
like
I mean by like denial in having something to relate to the film, like the film at its base, I feel like, and again, I haven't even seen it and I know this because I can just fucking tell. Like this story is about family, it's about love, it's about finding yourself in a universe that doesn't give a fuck about you. It's like and like why do you want to be in this place at this time with this person? Oh, because you want to, and that's enough of a reason to like exist. Like, if you did not empathize with this film, like, are you okay? Like, maybe you need to talk to somebody. Like, are you lonely? I'm so sorry. Like, there's just, I just think that this movie just covers so much ground too in terms of, like relationships with your parents as well. Like, I know that one of the, um, kind of focal points of the movie is like Michelle Yeoh's relationship with her daughter and coming to terms with her daughter's like sexuality, which she is not readily accepting of at the beginning of the movie. Again, I haven't seen this movie, but I know that.
I would be, man, I'm like wondering whether I should talk about it because like I do want to do like a full episode on it. Also don't want to retread, but like I will say that like I think the sexuality part is like not as core to it as I think a lot of analysis
Hmm.
put it as. I think it's kind of like the so like if you're writing
Yeah.
a movie, you only
Yeah.
have a certain amount of time. So you need to set up certain types of issues,
Yeah.
right, really quickly. And I think just in our present moment, it just like really easy to like bring up sexuality as the problem that the
Yeah.
parents don't get. But I think it's really there to pull out a larger thread for Asian Americans and their relationship with their parents. That's not just about sexuality. It could be about any other form of your parents just not
I love
getting
that
it,
you keep
you know, or
doing
not
this.
understanding.
Like,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
they just
I'm
don't
pulling
get
the thread. I'm
it.
pulling the thread.
The big pile back here, like
Yeah, I think the main thing it's trying to talk about is Asian American. It's like these immigrant parents who've gone through a. I said that one time. It's about these Asian American parents who are immigrants who have gone through a lot, who are at a point in their lives in which like they have certain ideas about the world, and I won't say more about that. Um, and them being approached by their kids who, because they grew up in America, right, have certain like things, ideas about themselves that are different, right, that they don't understand, right, and sexuality is like the easy way for people who don't understand this very intricate Asian American relationship
hmm
to grasp. But I think it's really just a stand-in for like your parents just not getting you,
hmm
period, for whatever reason they
hmm
don't get you, right? And like I don't know, just for me, like I don't think the movie talks about sex. See, I would believe that it was about sexuality if the movie talked more about sexuality,
hmm
but it doesn't, right? I really do think it's being used as the easy setup, right, to get everyone onto the same page, even if you're
Mm.
not Asian American, right?
I like that.
But I'll leave you with that to like
I'll
think about
chew
as you
on that
watch the
while I'm
movie.
watching the movie for sure. I do think that like that makes a lot of sense as well, simply because I'm sure there are a lot of points about this movie that are very exclusive to the Asian American experience. So to throw in something just slightly more
Mhm,
universal as something that like people who don't identify with like the larger more specific issues can sort of latch onto and identify with a little bit easier. And so I totally understand what you're saying, and I think that like there are a lot of movies that do this. Like, um,
mhm.
I don't know. Like there are a lot of movies that frame struggles, like very human struggles. Also with like romance on the side, or with like stories about friendship. It's just something that the audience can use as uh something that is the unifying factor, and so it might be easier for them to like sink themselves into the story so that they can empathize with like the larger more complicated issues at hand. Something that I see really well done with this is the show The Last of Us, where at different points of the show, you were seeing these characters kind of at different points in their lives, and you empathize with them for all kinds of reasons. But it's very clear that there are specific moments that are garnered to be like, hey, look, this is not just like a character of like a show that you were separated from. Like, this is a human being. And there are reasons why human beings act certain ways, right? And it calls to
Mhm.
question, not calls to question, but calls to focus like bigger and more universal issues within the framework of something a little bit more specific. And I think that Everything Everywhere All at Once doing that is a good idea, just because like broadly it's an Asian American film, so bringing in something like that would just help to, exactly like you said, just help to like have a wider audience maybe empathize with it a little bit more. I might disagree with you on that after I watch it, but that makes a lot of sense. um I also gotta say, just in terms of like the other Academy Awards that were given out this year, I think that we did we did well. We did really good. Like Brendan Fraser winning Best Actor for The Whale. The Whale is a phenomenal movie. I don't want to talk too much about it because there there are experiences of that movie that I just feel like I'm not qualified to speak about at all. But watching that movie is a fantastic
Mhm.
experience, and I would absolutely recommend everyone and everyone to everyone and everyone anyone and everyone to go watch it. Everyone,
Everyone
everywhere,
everywhere
all at once.
should watch the movie. Okay.
All Quiet on the Western Front. If you've read that story, that's a crazy story. The film, even crazier. Um, Also, the way that it won Best International Feature Film, I thought was really cool. Um, I mean, it is like primarily in German, but it was distributed by Netflix. So this is also more of like speaking to how Netflix is kind of like again penetrating like the international sphere, which it has been for a long time, but I feel like
Were they the ones who brought us
no,
Parasite? Was
I
that
don't
on
think
Netflix?
Parasite was distributed by Netflix.
No.
But even with
I remember a big Korean thing being on
there's a lot
Netflix.
of Korean stuff on Netflix, yeah. But even with like
That's
Cyberpunk
true.
Edge Runners, the anime that came out that was based on like the video game, like Netflix has really stepped up in terms of giving us international entertainment. And All Quiet on the Western Front winning Best International Feature Film just kind of speaks to that. And I think we have, I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast, but we've had this conversation before about how Netflix is like
That's a
branching out and
conversation.
doing a lot of stuff overseas, and how interesting that is in terms of like
Hmm.
bringing different cultures to the screens of like everyday white Americans. Um,
I also think not just to everyday white Americans, but also to just like us as Asian Americans. I like, like I think a big part of Asian Americanness is being influenced by like culture that's happening in Asia. That's like that doesn't always happen with all the types of minorities that are here. Like I think it's not unique to Asians, but it is something that's that's particular about like being Asian here is that like it's kind of hard to remove that like Asian
Mm-hmm.
culture, like Asian in Asia culture from like
Mm-hmm.
yourself, you know? Because because like things like Netflix are like bringing like this stuff over
Mm-hmm.
all the time, and like the proliferation of like, you know, Asian culture here is it's a really interesting time to be
Yeah.
Asian American. For better or
Yeah.
for worse. It's a very interesting time to be Asian
I
American
also,
in America.
and this kind of ties back into what we were talking about earlier with Michelle Yeoh winning like the first Asian actress. Like, I feel like a lot of people were surprised to hear that simply because of how prolific Asian media is in the US like right now, and with like
Hmm.
anime and K-pop and everything, like I think you would expect that number to be higher. Um and so to have that kind of be the trailblazing thing is interesting cuz I mean, you're right. Like Asian media in general has just become very big and it's kind of everywhere, and so like I swear to Christ, like army are everywhere. So my friend, no, listen. So I live with my
Okay,
friend,
okay, okay,
right?
okay.
And
Hmm.
he has a girlfriend that comes over, and she parked her car in like the lot somewhere at our apartment complex, and she was telling me like she has a little like BTS sticker on her car, and she told me that like
Hmm.
she parked her car here overnight, and in the morning she went out to her car and somebody had left her like a note with the BTS photo card being like, "Hey Army, like so good to see you, like your car sticker is so cute, like I love it, like happy Hobiwary." And like I was like, they're literally everywhere. You can't you can't escape them. But I mean, that's so cool too, right? Like
I do believe the BTS army is bigger than some militaries in this world. Like, if they wanted to take over
they
a country,
absolutely could. Are
I
you
think
kidding
they
me?
could. They
Um,
could. Several, actually.
no, but I think that it's just fascinating now to see like how widespread it is and how you just literally run into people who are like very in tune with this specific kind of Korean culture just like everywhere now. Um and I don't know, like at the same time that it's fascinating, it's like it's happening so quickly. Like there isn't any research on this. Like it's in terms of like official visibility,
No.
in terms of like the big stage, like the Academy Awards, and like having peer reviewed research on this kind of stuff, and like the phenomenon of like Korean culture exploding in the US. Like it's happened within the course of like the past 10 years. Like there isn't much in terms of like official designations on this. Like it's still happening kind of at
Hmm.
like I feel like it's still like the people's at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's why like Michelle Yeoh winning like this Academy Award is still so huge, even though Asian media has become so mainstream and like people watch anime and people watch K dramas, and like that's why this is still so big.
Hmm.
It's because
Hmm.
even though those things are so big and people have been watching them and participating on all of that, in terms of like still occupying the big leagues, like we still have a ways to go, right? And so this still feels
Yeah.
so big to us, even though like
Yeah. Even though it feels
yeah,
like it
like even
shouldn't at
though
the
like
same
like
time.
everybody listens to
Yeah.
BTS and like everybody watches anime, like this still feels like such a not like a huge like monument to us like within the culture right now, I think, it's weird. Like
Hmm.
when you were talking about how like everybody watches anime, I was like, yeah, everybody does watch anime, and like it's still like it's
It's so weird to be walking outside, go to campus, and literally see people with, like anime like keychains and stuff on
yeah.
their backpacks and stuff like that. And it's like, I still I remember growing up when anime wasn't cool, and you wouldn't tell people about the fact that you watch anime, right?
When I was a young
Like
lad,
that's
this was not.
yeah, like that's a thing, right? And now people like walk out with like anime tees and like hats and stuff like that, and like I still don't feel comfortable walking out with anime merch because I grew up with it not being something you
Yeah.
advertised.
I also want to say I think that there is something really fascinating about like Asian kids in particular not identifying with that. Because I remember like there was a phase that I went through where I kind of wanted to be white. I was like, I want to be white. I want to like fit in with the white kids. And like because white kids made fun of anime, like,
Yeah,
and made fun of K-pop and made fun of like
yeah.
liking Asian things, it was cool to shit on those things as well because you were like trying to be part of this like more homogenous group. And I think that it's interesting that like my white friends are more out and open about listening to BTS and K-pop than I am. And they'll like fangirl about K-dramas and like they'll know Asian actors by name. I don't know Asian actors by name. Like they'll name drop K-dramas and they'll be like, "Yeah, like this guy who's in like this and this." And I'll be like, "I'll know his face cuz I grew up watching him, but I don't know his name
Crazy.
cuz I'm not a fan of him like that." Like yeah, and I think that that's
Crazy.
something that like a lot of my Asian American friends identify with. Like we aren't like as out about liking those things. One, either because it's just like it's just TV to us. Like we aren't like it's not like a facet of our personality or like we
Mhm.
don't consider ourselves stans for watching like certain K-dramas, you know.
Uh,
Um did it because of that or two because like we literally took the active effort in like removing that part of our personality at some point and now that it's like cool we're like where does
yeah.
this fit in now. I'm like so confused as to where this is supposed to go. um and yeah, no, you're totally right. Like I feel the same way about like watching anime now. Like sometimes I'll be like, yeah, like I just watched like the new like episode of like Attack on Titan that just came out. It's like this anime and like everybody will be like, "Oh yeah, like yeah, like
Yeah,
last
Attack on
season was
Titan.
crazy, right?" And I'm like, "You're a stranger that I just met and that's crazy." Like I felt like I needed like I don't know. I feel like I kind of need to be default embarrassed about it, but like it's just so mainstream now that I don't
Mhm.
like it. I don't know, it's just weird.
Yeah. My, my brother the other day, I was talking to my brother, and he was like, "Yeah, like I remember, like not that long ago, there was a time when like being Asian just
Yeah.
really wasn't cool, and then suddenly BTS happened, right? And then like now it is cool." And he's like, "I gotta like thank BTS for making Asian cool," and I was like, "No, you're just right. You're just right. I can't
Where do
even
I
argue with
send
it.
this
That is
letter?
just a true
I
assessment."
have to send them a thank you note. Like no, I also yeah, no, I oh god. I just also think BTS in particular with like Asian men. You know,
Hmm.
because I feel like Asian women in some way have always been like fetishized and kind of like sexualized in mass media, like even in the times of like Anime Wong in the early 1900s, like women were still being like Asian women in particular were being like we've always been like sex
Hmm.
icons, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it girls.
Yeah. Maybe not always in the best ways, but like, yeah.
But in terms of like being sex icons, Asian men certainly were not in terms of being characterized in
No.
like media and especially in like early Hollywood, like in Asian American media or like American media depicting Asians, right? Like nerds, not cool, usually has no sex appeal whatsoever, like very characterized in being like short, ugly. And also like if they do have a sexual aspect, it's usually like being a pervert. And like
Yeah.
that's not great. And so to have this like blow up of like BTS is these like seven sex icons that are like Asian and they're great at dancing and they're like good at singing and like all the ladies love them. It's like it is different. Like it's representation that we haven't had before.
It's and it's like I think if anyone ever like wants to say that like representation doesn't matter, I think BTS is kind of like the
Yeah.
like definitive nail in the coffin
Yeah.
of that
They're the it
argument,
boys.
right? Because like literally it literally felt like overnight like we got BTS, they became really big, and then suddenly like perceptions of Asian men like 180 so hard. Like it feels weird to talk about, but it like I think a lot of other Asian men can agree that like there came like a point sometime in the last like decade where suddenly like it was cool to be Asian, and then like having to like unpack that is a really funny and weird experience. Because you like sit there and you're like, wait, it took BTS to make Asians cool? Like, does that mean Asians are cool the whole time?
Are we the
Is that what?
baddies? Were we the baddies the whole time?
Are we the baddies?
And I think that something is so fascinating about that is like, remember what I was saying? Like, this all happened so fast. Like, within the span of not even like a generation. Like, I'm talking like a couple years. Like, when I was embarrassed to like anime, I was in middle school. That wasn't
Yeah.
even like 10 years ago, right? Like, to know that this has happened so fast is like, someone has to drop some like fucking research on this like right now. Like, drop some peer-reviewed articles, please, because I want to know. Like, it's just fascinating to see. And like, literally, like, I went from being bullied for being Asian, right? Like, having like I remember this like every day on the bus. Like, there were these boys and girls who would be like, making the slanty eye thing and like making fun of me for being Asian. I remember like the embarrassing box lunches, right? I remember people like when I would like answer the phone and my mom would be talking to me and I would like speak in Korean and people would be like, oh, like ching chong ling long, like, oh my god, Elizabeth is speaking like Asian right now. Like, I fucking remember all of that shit. That was like freshman year of high school, 8th grade, middle school. Like, that's like fresh in my fucking mind. And then overnight, like, I get guys sliding into my DMs being like, damn, you're giving Jisoo from Blackpink. Like, I'm so like, this like fucks with me so bad. Like, I don't get it. I really don't. And like, when you explain this thing, I feel like you're still laughing about the Jisoo from Blackpink thing.
I 100% believe you that a guy would do that, but like it just still. That's the best they got. Is that the best they got? Like, actually,
I gotta say, like, oh my god.
I'm sorry. You
No,
were saying
you're
something very
good. Like,
important.
I'm still
and
thinking
I-
about it. Like, I remember,
As
I
you
remember I
should.
was watching this Instagram reel of this girl that, like she was like making a video and it's like a bit obviously, but it's like, my boyfriend tells me hello princess, but the homeless man outside my 7-Eleven tells me konnichiwa, my Japanese icon. Like, I love you so much. And it's like, yeah, he's got to step up his game. Like, yeah, my Jisoo from Blackpink, like, it's giving Jisoo from Blackpink. That's the new standard. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not gonna call me that, then like you
Yeah.
just go home. Um, but no, like it's not even been a generation. It's not even a generation. Like, this happened within our lifetime, within the past couple of years, and it's just wild.
Yeah.
Like, to see BTS on fucking Jimmy Fallon and like the Late Late Show, to see them performing on like American TV. And it's not just BTS, like Blackpink performed, and Super M was on fucking Ellen DeGeneres, and like 17 performed on the Late Night Show. Like, it's big. It literally feels like it happened overnight. Like, I can't pinpoint when it happened, but it happened very fast. And now I'm like,
It
yeah,
snuck up
I'm
on
like,
me.
what do I do with this now? Like, I guess I can be proud to be Asian, actually, instead of like hiding it under the covers and trying my hardest to be white.
Well, I think
Like,
I think part of what like we can do with this is that like the thing that I love, tying it back to the Oscars, because I think we did lose the thread a bit.
yes, we went on a tangent.
Is that
I'm
like
sorry.
I think because of that, it has really allowed like Asian American artists, like, even though Asian American artists aren't like Korean artists, like, it's a little different, but like it has allowed us to like get more visibility and to be able to do something like
Mm-hmm.
win an Oscar, right? Like I mean, the film's great. The film's great, but I also think like part of it is just that like Asian culture coming here through these various means has also just like created an appetite for like or created like maybe not an appetite but created like a better tolerance towards like Asian
Mm-hmm.
art, right? And um you know, maybe it's not a good thing that this is how it had to have gone
Mm-hmm.
down, you know, like ideally it would have just been like the movie is just good on its own merit, right? And that's
Yeah.
all that it takes. But like I think there's just got to be some part of me that just admits that like, you know, like the reason we're here is possibly because some of these things, right? And it's just time to take advantage of that as like Asian American artists, right? Like I know like the two of us like really love art and stuff like that. You know, we have a
Maybe
podcast
like
that's
a little
about
bit.
art.
Maybe like just like a tad. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, you know, like that's the like the thing that I love about this movie too on like the meta level, right? Like outside of the movie itself, it really felt like a message. It was this, and there's that other book that Doctor Lomax, or not Doctor, soon to be Doctor Lomax. Um,
Sorry, sir.
I
I'm
believe in him. I
sorry.
believe in him.
Uh,
I believe in him. But he recommended us a book, right? The Asian American pop culture to like from the
yeah,
1980s up book. Man, I butchered
yeah.
the name of that book, but in the dedication it said like this is for all the ones
Mhm.
who come next, right? And I feel like this that combined with like this movie doing good, like really makes me feel
Mhm.
so excited to be an Asian American who I'm hard pressed to call myself an artist, but who wants to make art. And it feels fine more than ever. It finally feels like it's a
Mhm.
possibility that this is something that like I can do, and it won't just be relegated to like my bedroom, right? This is something I can do, and like there is someone out there, they're not just someone, like many someones out there who would actually appreciate it, and like that just makes me so excited
I
and
love that we
happy.
went full circle from me talking about like yeah, we did it.
Yes,
We did it.
bring the
End
bed
the
back
episode
around.
right here. No. No, but I totally agree with you. I think that the more visibility that we have in doing these kinds of things and doing them well and getting recognition for doing them well, because it's not like we haven't been doing this for years and years and years, right? But the
Hmm.
tables are finally turning and the pages are finally flipping, and we're getting to the point where we have a say and we have like a stance and we have like footing on this platform that we have never had before, right? As a group of people, as a collective, as as all of us together and all of us as individuals, and it's exactly what you said, right? Like now the people who want to do art not just as a hobby and not just as like a side piece for academia, right? But as their
Hmm.
actual fucking living and as their passion, and being able to do that on a stage that we have previously not have access to is now more possible than ever. And that's so exciting to like it's exciting to be alive for that.
Yeah, yeah. It is, and like you know, there are still
Yeah.
problems, right? And like not just with like Asians, but like minorities
And
in
Asians
general.
have a
But
lot of
like
problems,
it
okay?
does.
Like
Oh, she's right. Can't even argue with that. Yeah, but just you know, but like it's just a really nice time to just be, you know, you know, you know, like there is merit to like thinking about the problems and stuff like that, but there's also merit to just forgetting about them for a second and just being happy and optimistic
yeah.
about the future of where this is going. And like that's where I
Yeah.
am with this, right? And like I know like there's going to be struggles that are going to come further along the way, but for now I'm just going to forget that and just like revel in
Mhm.
this moment. Or the moment that happened like a couple weeks ago because
We're
we're
a
a
little bit
little late
late,
on
but
the
it's
draw.
okay. Um oh my god. Yeah, no, it really felt like Ke Huy Kwan when he's like, "Mom, I won." an
Oh, that
Oscar.
made me cry.
Like,
Oh,
we were all there with him. We were all there with him, and we were all crying right along with him, and we were all rejoicing at the same like pace and with the same pleasure, with the same joy as he was. And God, yeah.
his
Oh my God,
excitement's so
yeah. Like every
contagious.
video that I see of him is just like, oh, that video. Have you seen that video of him coming up to Brendan Fraser after, and he's like, "We did it! Wow!" I
You
did
sent me
because
that
it's
video.
so good. And Brendan, I love that Brendan just immediately starts crying. Like it's just like I'm like, yeah, man, that's a mood. That would be me too.
That's a move. That's a move.
I feel like we could probably fade out on talking about that last part, but
Wait. We talked about the Oscars, but can I talk about the SAGs for a second? Did you see that story?
okay, our gems of the week is the
So
SATs.
no,
Oh, I was
SAG.
like, what?
No, I'm not. Dude, I left the SATs behind, okay? If anyone ever gives me another SAT, I am going to fail it on purpose. I will get every single question wrong. Just to spite that motherfucker.
I was like, oh, this is so random. This is so random. Why? Why do you want to talk about the SATs? I apologize. Continue.
So, there's another award there's another award called the SAG, and I'm just gonna clown on them for a second because like they done goof and it's dumb
Okay.
as hell. So Everything Everywhere All at Once won some award for it. I'm never gonna look it up because I don't because I'm just not gonna give them the time of day. And the person who presented them the award was Mark Wahlberg. And if you don't know, he has committed an Asian hate crime before.
Oh.
And like that moment, like that moment was odd. That moment was very odd. And like I'm not even like condemning it or anything or like okay. I'm not even like I'm just here to clown on them. Like that's it. I'm not even saying like this is bad, they should cancel or anything. I'm just saying like y'all seriously, no one in the room. Right, because like everyone knew Everything Everywhere All at Once was gonna win, right? So like when you were picking your hosts, you should have like no one stopped you and said, "Don't pick the guy who's committed an Asian hate crime," right? And like I get it, you know, like people can change, right? He was young, sure, you know, even if, and I'm not sure I believe it, but even if he's 100% not a racist anymore. It's still the wrong choice. It's still the wrong choice.
We're not saying that Mark
Don't do that.
Wahlberg is racist, but we're not saying.
Bro, even best case scenario, he's 100% not a racist anymore. Still the wrong choice. Still the wrong choice. There is no scenario in which that's the right. No, there is a scenario in which that's the right choice, and that's the one in which he did not commit a hate crime.
We could have had Idris Elba. Where's Idris Elba? We deserve Idris Elba. God damn it.
Anyone else?
That's actually hilarious. Now I have to go watch the clip of him presenting that award because I want to see it and I want to revel in the awkwardness.
It was
But dang,
so
no,
weird.
Everything
weird.
Everywhere All at Once fucking swept the SAGs as well. Jamie Lee Curtis won
They swept
female
everything,
actor in a
man.
supporting role. Michelle Yeoh won female actor in a leading role. The cast in a motion picture, just in general, won. They won that as well. And Ke Huy Quan, male actor in a supporting role, he won like all of the accolades for male actor in a leading role, in a supporting
Yeah,
role. I
he
think
did.
because he also won the Golden Globe for that as well, right?
I'm
I
just
think
gonna assume
he
he did.
did.
I'm just gonna assume he won everything.
I think Ke Huy Quan won every single award for best male actor in a supporting role this year.
Yeah, he won it.
He did, right? Yeah, he did.
He did.
Oh my god, yeah, no. So deserved though. even though they didn't win best costume, can't win everything, I guess, but um and again, like just to see us ourselves on the big screen like this was just so fucking sick. So fucking cool.
So cool. So cool.